Yep.
Here we go.
I don't know if everyone got the little question list that I sent out. Did everybody get that?
Yeah.
Anybody not get that? Jitin, you got it?
Yeah, we got that.
And
But we didn't find many answers for that.
We needed more time.
You know, the philosophy, Samkhya, Samkhya philosophy is difficult subject, so
yeah,
not much given there. And also from Gita point of view, the Samkhya doesn't appear many places, there's one or two places. So knowledge of Samkhya is not really, that is peripheral to the Gita teaching.
well, it touches on a couple of things related to Samkhya, and then I kind of got curious about that, and I dug
So could you
into-
just clarify for everyone what Samkhya is, philosophy-wise?
I can, let me see, or can you do the share screen and I'll just go over it.
Vaishali says
yeah, 1 second.
She's coming soon. She's having trouble
Okay,
getting.
you're good.
Okay. So I can, okay, so now I have to see, hang on 1 second, sorry.
Shiv, see if Vaishali is trying to get in.
Not
She's
yet.
unable to. Not yet. Okay, she's having trouble.
Sorry about this. Okay. Okay, so how do I just click share screen?
Yeah, and then you pick the window.
All right. So can everybody see this?
Yeah.
Yes.
So the reason I brought this up is because I kind of got, when you look at the explanations for what Krishna is teaching Arjuna in that second chapter, the interpretations that are given from the people who are knowledgeable about the Gita is that Krishna is explaining elements of Samkhya philosophy as it applies to the situation that he's in. So I got curious about Samkhya and I dug into what's available in the Wikipedia and stuff like that. And I tried to get a better idea myself of what Samkhya philosophy is. And it turns out that it is a philosophy that there are 6 different philosophies that derive from the Vedas in Hinduism. And then there are 4 other philosophies that deny the Vedas effectively. Okay, Buddhism is the big one there. The lot of the other 6 philosophies, they can be kind of differentiated from Samkhya by what they agree with Samkhya and don't. But Samkhya seems like it's one of the oldest philosophies. And then there's the yoga philosophy, which is very similar to Samkhya, except that I think it brings in a lot of the ascetic elements, which I think predated the Vedas. That's my opinion anyway. So the central ideas in Samkhya philosophy, one is that there is a universal consciousness that's called Purusha, and there is a universal nature, which is Prakriti. And there are elements of Purusha. When Purusha and Prakriti meet, they create a jiva, or a living being. And that living being has an atma, or its own soul. And that own soul tends to dominate the consciousness of the jiva. So the jiva becomes kind of unaware of the fact that there is a Purusha or Paramatma out there. And so the jiva is effectively living in an illusion which is where it's not aware that it's a part of the overall consciousness. So that is effectively the central concept in this Samkhya philosophy. This is what I understand. Jiten, you can, or anybody else can correct me.
See, Gita has a simple definition from
Jiten, let me do one thing. Let me finish this description,
Okay.
and then you can correct whatever it needs to be corrected. And one of the elements in Samkhya philosophy, which is very much in all of the Indian philosophies and religions, is this concept of mukti or moksha, where the goal effectively of your life is supposed to be to gain unify with the Purusha or the universal consciousness, and that is effectively, that's done by you dying. Okay, so when you die, you achieve this unification with the universal consciousness, and then your illusion goes away. One other aspect of this Samkhya philosophy is that every action you perform in your life adds to a kind of an imprint of your into your atma or into your soul, and those are the karmas. Those are the little actions that you take in your life. They kind of make a signature onto your atma, and that carries over into your next life. So when you die, your soul doesn't die, but gets reborn at some time in the future in a different jiva. That is the concept behind this Samkhya, and that's what Krishna is explaining to Arjuna, that look, when you kill whoever you kill, you're not really killing the soul. The soul is going to be reborn, so don't worry about it. And there's also a concept of kal or time in Samkhya, that the time just goes on and on and on, and you will be reborn many, many times in time. Your living presence, you're going to have three qualities. Those qualities are called sattvic, rajasic, and tamasic. I'm sure many of you are very familiar with that. And the tattvas, or the elements by which the jiva interacts with the natural world, are things like your senses, your mind, all these different things. And there are the 23 different elements delineated in the Samkhya philosophy. And finally, I think the most important thing, which, the most important thing in this Samkhya philosophy is the concept of dharma. And some people consider it duty, but I think personally, I think that's much more complex. It is based on how you are born, and what traits you inherit from the family that you're born into, what kind of training you receive in your early life, what sort of opportunities you have in your life, and kind of the environment that you're born into. So the age you're born into. Someone who's born these days has a lot of different opportunities as compared to someone who was born 2000 years ago. So that's part of your dharma. And I'll stop at that. And Jiten, anybody else wants to correct me, you can please go ahead.
Yeah, first thing is, the tattva elements, there is not 23, 24 elements.
Okay.
And then Gita will...
Can I explain the meaning of Samkhya Yoga?
Sure.
it says Samkhya refers to that philosophy which describes the real nature of the soul. And then yoga, it involves controlling the senses.
Okay.
So right now, when he will be talking about how to control your senses in this chapter only.
In chapter 2.
Yes.
Okay.
So
How
you
to
want me
control
to?
your senses?
Yes, how to control and how to figure out that person who is has control over the senses. That's what he's talking. Also, Krishna will talk about it. So he also asked, how do you know that person? So in this chapter 2, it's divided into 3 parts, right? First is Atma, right? Atma is like, it cannot be killed with fire, this, that, whatever. He has said that. You cannot slain it. So, and he's comparing between the body and the Atma in the beginning, right? So you cannot, so why are you lamenting? Stand up and fight. So after that, he comes to Swadharma. Swadharma is your duty. You're a Kshatriya, you get up and fight. Otherwise, if you don't fight, you'll be caught, you'll say, other people will say you ran away from this duty. You were fearful, you live in shame, and all these things he has said. 5, 7, 8, 10 shlokas he has said, you will live in shame. And living in shame is worse than death or running away. And if you win this battle, you will attain, either you'll attain heaven or you'll attain the kingdom. So stand up and fight and don't worry about your karma, about not fighting.
Result.
About the result. No, result is next.
Achha.
So stand up and fight. So now this is your Swadharma, and do not do not go away from it. So now after third thing is Karma Yoga. He comes in Karma Yoga. This chapter is divided into 3, kind of. So he is saying Karma Yoga. Karma Yoga is the time when you have to do things for others happily. Karma Yoga is when you kind of you do your not duty, but you do things like selfless duty, right? Karma, like you do not go for rag, dvesh, you do not go for happiness and sadness, all these variations, opposites, right? So if you do yag and you say, I want this, I want this, I want this, this is not the right thing. You will not gain moksha, right? So you will not attain equanimity, poise. You will always want more and more and more. So now if you want more and more, what will happen is when you get it, you'll want more. When you don't get it, you will have disappointment. And then you'll take a wrong step and then you'll go down the hill. On the other hand, if you're poised, you do not get affected by all these raga, desha, happiness, win or lose, and all those things, then you will attain a poise, equipoise. That's what we have to do it. That's what we have to learn it. That's what all the siddhas have said it. That if you don't attain, you don't interact with those pros and cons, then you are a siddha. So that's what he's saying in this chapter. I'm done.
Okay.
But you know, Gita, when people are younger,
Yeah.
they don't think like that. You know, I mean, at our age, you know, it's easy to think like that. Oh, don't compete, don't do that, don't do that. We are competing. Everybody is trying to compete at every stage of their life, which is natural when we think of our own selves when we were younger, right? People think it's competing all the time. At this age, we are older and we are not looking into competitions with anybody. We are not looking into job or whatever, whatever we have, we are satisfied. Vikas had asked a very interesting question the other day, and that's why Pravin was looking into the Samkhya and all that, I think. Vikas had asked, I wish he was here, he's not here today, but he had asked a question that reading all this Gita and everything, how do we apply Gita to our life now?
Yeah.
That was a very interesting question, younger person point of view.
Put in. This is based on practice. The more you practice, the more you do sadhana. It doesn't come right away. I think this is more of practice from the very young age, or, so it doesn't come in one time. The Siddhas who have gone through this, it's not one day thing. It's been years and years and years and years of sadhana. So in order to get that, you have to practice.
There's an element in this philosophy, in Samkhya philosophy, and it really permeates a lot of Hinduism, which is this concept that you see these gunas. I think what Gita is talking about is focusing more on the sattvic thing, where you're trying to be selfless and more logical and calm and cool about what you do. But if you really think about it, most things in the real world, most things require passion and energy, right? So they're more rajasic, really. So if you want to make a difference in the real world, you definitely have to pay attention to the rajasic qualities and to put energy into those qualities. And I think that's one of the reasons that younger people tend to ignore the Gita, because everybody's always emphasizing, oh, you got to be sattvic. And that makes it almost like a lifeless kind of thing where you can't participate in the real world. And that is, personally, I have not a good feeling about that kind of emphasis on only sattvic things. I think a lot of what happens in the real world is very rajasic, and we should acknowledge that, and we should say it's okay to do that.
Yes, actually, yeah. Can I just?
Vaishali,
yeah.
you came in. Good.
Again.
Yeah. I was here. Sorry, I logged in a little late because I know there's some funny thing happening with my laptop while logging into Zoom. So sorry for the delay. Yeah. So I heard it. Actually, yeah. I was in when Pravin was talking about this screen share. So yes, actually it is very true. But what I feel is that yes, Rajasic, that passion is required, which the youngsters generally want. But I think it can be with the sattvic mind. The thoughts can be sattvic, if not the actions. Because like Gita ji and everybody said very truly, the sattvic mind is required in the sense whatever the result is, I should accept it. And yes, that is difficult to accept for the younger generation now. There's competition and all that. But the thing is, I think the more they develop this basic quality of gratitude, like whatever they get, it can be counted as a blessing and have a gratitude for it. And slowly then I think that thought starts coming that whatever I deserve, I will get. I have to just put my effort, whatever that is. I think slowly that, like Gita ji said, becomes a habit. And then slowly you start accepting whatever you receive, but that passion, that competition can be there, but healthy competition. And that concept, I think, comes with the jnana of the Gita, that healthy competition. And I should get my end with the good means, like, with ethical means and all those things.
Yeah,
that's a very good point.
Sattvic doesn't mean that you cannot do passion and all of that. It's all selfless work, you don't look at the results, you do your best, you do effort, and with good intention. Intention should be very good. That's the main point.
Satish ji, आप कुछ कहना चाहेंगे?
I am just listening right now and getting a lot of information about it.
Okay, ठीक.
Lata?
हाँ जी.
Go ahead. नहीं, So the Gita jo hai, this is the conflict of life, that it is true. This is what goes on. This is the way of living. Gita ka conflict hai, right? It's a conflict of life. Kya hai? This is the way we live, I think. Right, Gita? Okay.
सुरेंद्र जी, आप कुछ कहना चाहेंगे? I can't hear you. You have to unmute.
Unmute. Can I hear?
Yes.
Yes.
You hear me now? Okay.
Yes.
No, I appreciate this discussion. And going back to Purusha and Prakriti, these are the two constituents which make the reality. And sometimes we understand Purusha is more important than Prakriti. And I think in the Gita, in chapter 2, it's more about Purusha, that which Arjuna is trying to make understand Krishna, Arjuna, that you have to have your potential which is existing within you. These are the gunas. And each one of us has a one predominant guna which might be sattvic or which might be rajasic or tamasic. But it is not that one guna is only predominant, that all the three gunas are present in all of us, and sometimes in a balance, but sometimes in imbalance. And that's what I think for an ordinary person is, that we should try to maintain a balance of the three gunas to be a right kind of Purusha. And only then you can, I mean, in this kind of, not in a very idealistic world, but rather that I can be completely sattvic, it's not possible. Or if I'm completely rajasic, that's probably also damaging. Or being tamasic or being inactive at all, it's also very damaging. That we may say it's a dullness, or I have Arjuna became very desolate, that he does not want to fight. That was a quality of tamasic at that time in him, that he does not want to fight. And Krishna then somehow raises his, you can say, rajasic or the karmic or the activity kind of guna, by which he starts getting into. That's the way I understand the three gunas which are part of the Purusha, and how we maintain the balance. So if whether it's a student or if it's a worker or is an old person, it doesn't matter. So I think what we find is that we are not balancing them, and that's my message, is that how we can balance them so that this can be applied in the personal life, in everyday life. Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you. I'd
Yeah,
like
yeah,
to
that-
talk a little bit, if I could.
Yes.
From my understanding of this, the Purusha aspect, we're talking about what is eternal and is never changing, is always the same. Yeah. And then with the Prakriti, we're talking about what is constantly changing. Yeah. So the idea here, if we want to find our dharma and be able to see what that is without identifying with the karma and being trapped in time, in the kal, right? Then we need to be able to identify with the Purusha and not with the Prakriti. Because if we're identifying with the Prakriti, then we are lost in this chaotic aspect of what is constantly shifting. But if our identity is what is constantly stable, then we can build on top of that stable foundation. And so this is partly about how to find stability in life. And yes, this is about, I agree, it's about balance and using the gunas in order to find, and the tattvas in order to find balance, to be able to disidentify with the karma, which we don't have any control over, to identify with the Purusha and the consciousness that we are, and be able to actually work with the Prakriti from a space of not being identified with the karma.
Actually, I think what Surinderji was mentioning for Purusha, actually the ideal word, what I think should be the Jivatma, right? And what Shiv said, the Purusha is actually the Uttam Purusha, the, what do you say, the Paramatma kind of thing. Yes.
Yes.
But Venkat, do you want to add anything? Venkat is another younger guy. And it's good to hear from people who are younger and their point of view, like Shiv and Vikas, Venkat, Malika. These are all younger people and their thinking. Is it different from what people think at our age?
I don't have any, like I'm hearing now first day. So I don't have much knowledge on all these teachings. So maybe in coming sessions, maybe I can also go in deep and I can come up with something maybe.
You know, that's the point, you know, when we are younger, I mean, at least me, when we were younger, we just came from India, came to this country and do this, do that, you know, and life has just gone on like a machine. And by the time you open your eyes, you're old. And everybody's pushing you, ठीक है, अब retire हो जाओ. पर जब आए थे तो इतना काम था कि आंखें खोलने की बस, we just had to settle down. And so I think most people go through that when they're younger, and we ignore our health, we ignore, and who has time to think about Prakriti and Purusha and Jiva, and you know, you just live day to day, you don't think about living, just keep going, you know, which is not good. I'm not sure it's good. But
I think it can depend on the situation. Like, that's why we had the gunas, which, like, one way I like to think about it is, when you're feeding the sattvic mind, you're feeding that conscious aspect where, which allows one to be more aware. When you're feeding the rajasic mind, you're feeding the body and building more stability in this world. And when you're feeding that tamasic aspect, you're feeding just the general inertia of where you're already going and just building momentum. So you're not really focusing on creating change, just maintaining your current momentum in life. So using these three aspects of how we interact with our food, we can shift our direction in life.
Good points.
anybody else want to say anything? Any adding anything?
Well, I think the literal meaning of Samkhya Yoga, if you want to see the real definition, Samkhya means numbers and yoga means union. So it's union of numbers.
Oh, wow.
And, there are realities there, you know, 24 realities or tattva, whatever you want to call. So that's the literal meaning of Samkhya Yoga.
Actually, yeah, I think Samkhya also means knowledge, right? Samkhya is also, there's a meaning. It's a knowledge, yeah.
Well,
You're on mute right now. We can't hear you.
who's talking?
I think Surinder is trying to talk. We can't hear.
Oh, I see.
Surinder,
Surinder,
you're on mute. हाँ, अब ठीक है.
Okay, all right. No, I am saying that it's a very confusing definition. Sankhya in literal meaning is number, no doubt. But how in this, what context, and then it is said, but then it jumps to Purusha and Prakriti. There's a two realities that which in some proportion exist on each other. Although it is expected that they are independent, but somehow both cannot understand reality by themselves. So that's why the Prakriti and Purusha have to come together. And then we talk about the Purusha gunas, and also the same is about the Prakriti gunas. The elements which also have the three tattva, three elements. And these are not attributes, these are actually elements that which are present in the Purusha and the Prakriti. and the combination of them. So that's one part. I think we have talked much on this. My second component is that as we talk about other philosophies, that how they relate to Gita, uh, I look at most of the Upanishads, because Gita itself is an Upanishad, actually the last Upanishad. And that way we have to look at the Vedanta philosophy, that how Vedanta looks at the reality of the universe and of the Purusha. So they actually, here we are talking about dualism, duality, whereas Vedanta talks about non-duality, Advaita. So the question is then, in which they think the reality or Prakriti is an illusion. It's not a reality. It's in our mind, the way we think about it, and it is a manifestation of one reality, and that is God. And that is maybe, I don't know, they don't believe in Prakriti or Purusha as such, but rather that the reality exists in Atma or Paramatma or the Brahman or the Brahma. So that's all one. Reality is one. It cannot be divided. It's the way we look at it. So now the question is, how, if we are looking at Sankhya philosophy as a duality or as a dual, and at the same time we consider Gita as one of the, you can say, Upanishad, which is largely on the Vedantic principle. Now, how we resolve that kind of dualism between the two? Is there any way of looking at that? Is Vedanta way we have to look at the reality, or is it? And I think in most of us, we always, even in Gita, it is said that this is a Maya, this is an illusion, and we have to get out of it. But at the same time, when we talk about Sankhya, I find duality. That's my larger question, if we can look into this.
One of the things that I feel is that all of these philosophies, the Hindu philosophies, they're a way at looking at the universe, right? And where we fit in that. But ultimately, when it really comes down to is your concept of what your dharma is and what actions you're going to take in this world, those are really, really critical, because that's what determines what you're going to do in the real world. If you assume that doing things in the real world is important, and otherwise it becomes everything is an illusion, and everything, it doesn't matter. We are going to, our goal in life is to have mukti. I mean, everything is sort of unreal and disconnected from the real world. So if you want to have an impact in this real world with the current life that you have, your concept of what your dharma is very, very important. That's the way I look at it.
I do agree with that, but along with this, there's the concept of karma, which is so strong into the Gita. So
yes.
How then we combine dharma and karma? Yes, definitely we say that we do our karma according to our dharma. And that's why Krishna is imploring Arjuna that you do your dharma, because he's not doing his kshatriya dharma, or to fight with the righteousness. And that's what he's provoking him, that you perform the dharma. And because he's a little bit unwilling to fight, because he's full of compassion and so on humanity. And then he's being jolted that no, your dharma as a kshatriya is to fight and to go against the unrighteous people. So that's why I think both karma and dharma should be linked, like we are looking at Prakriti and the Purusha. So that is a larger context in which we are looking at the reality, and within that are the smaller in which the human action is being, you can say, orchestrated. So I think that let's come to the larger, to the smaller, and the practical, like practical Vedanta, in which Vivekananda very rightly said that how
I'm
we
sorry to
practice.
interrupt. I think there's a lot of disturbance from
Yeah, what is
Satish ji's
going
side.
on in the background?
No, from Satish ji's side. Maybe somebody can mute him. Satish ji's side, there's a lot of disturbance.
1 second.
So we are not able to hear Surinder ji. Yeah, thank you. Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah, Surinder ji, please go on. Sorry to interrupt.
Okay.
Well, I was trying to say in very brief that there are the two things we are discussing here. One is dharma, and I'm saying that even karma, and both are related. So
Yes.
we should, along with the larger principles of Purusha and Prakriti, which are trying to understand the reality that how we exist or how the universe exists and where we fit into this. This is the one larger question in which we talk about. The second is the practical Vedanta, in which we are talking about that how the concept of karma and dharma are related and how we fit into this larger reality in context of that. That's why the debate which I thought that we should a little bit look into it.
Very much agree with you, Surinder ji. Dharma and karma, I think those are the very critical elements for real life, I think.
As I see it, the karma is largely related to what, at least from the perspective that we come into as a human being, we'd have no choice over. Whereas the dharma is something we have more of a choice over and is based on not just the karma, but what we believe and how that perspective that's created from what we believe makes us feel about our karma and how that drives us to act in life. And so as our belief system shifts, so might our dharma. As our view of what our karma is also shifts. You feel me?
Yes.
Shiv, Divya is trying to get in. Can you get
I
in?
just got her in.
Shiv, see if Divya is trying to get in.
She just got in.
Okay. She's studying for her boards.
Oh, wow.
So she's not prepared for anything right now, but she'll just listen.
She's doing her dharma.
Yeah, she's doing her dharma and karma, I guess. Kaam bhi kar rahi hai. Is she in?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I thought that was.
I have another slide for people to follow, after this.
Yeah, well, I was trying to expand on a little bit of.
So go over that.
I'm sorry. Yeah. So what I was trying to trying to give a little bit more vision to what dharma is. This is my particular view of it. Okay, which may not be correct, but I'll just give you one view, and then you guys can go ahead and correct it. So. Your dharma, as I was explaining, it is a complex thing. It's more than just duty, right? So based on what family you're born into, what community you're born into, you will inherit certain qualities, certain traits, right? So that is a big part of it. Then the training that you receive as a young person, that will qualify you to do certain things, that will have a big impact on your dharma. And then within life, there are certain incidents or opportunities, based on whatever is going on in the world, and that will also create an opportunity for you to practice your dharma one way or the other. So all of these things, and the way society looks on what you are and what your role is in the society impacts what people expect of you, and that's part of your dharma. So I thought that a good thing from a concrete perspective, if you want to look on it as a young person, is to pursue that with real passion. And I've heard that some explanations of the Gita is that if you think your dharma is to be a thief, then you should be a thief with passion. If you're a warrior, you should be a warrior with passion. And so whatever it is that, or you're a learned person, then you pursue that with great intensity, right? So the objective of all this is to pursue whatever you feel is your calling with great intensity. And when you look at pursuing whatever you're interested in, I think it's helpful to think of it as 3 circles. Okay, so you have an inner circle, which is your family, your dependents, maybe the people who are most directly dependent on you. And you have to be physically, mentally, and financially very strong in order to be able to fulfill your dharma in that inner circle. Then there's a wider circle from the inner circle, which is whatever you consider to be your community, right? So we could consider all Hindus to be our community, or you could consider all Americans to be your community. You know, if you consider yourself to be a very good citizen within the community, wherever you live. Especially this would be important for Indians who are expatriates. They are not in India anymore and they are Hindus in some other country. Then you have to broaden out your idea of what your community is. And the outermost circle would be, how do you want to represent your community with interactions with other communities? So all these things I thought were things that we might want to talk about as part of Dharma.
One thing that comes to mind from this, I think it's a great talk, but one thing that comes to mind from this for me is the general focus, like at growing up as a child here, in terms of how we're taught to find our dharma. Often we're taught to focus on exclusively the outer circle, whereas often for people, at least in my experience, to find the dharma that works, and keep refining that dharma, that purpose that is leading further, the focus has to be more on the inner circle, at least at first. And then once one finds more of a stability within the inner circle, then one can expand through the circles into the community and then expand further into the outer circle. But what if one doesn't have even a solid foundation within the inner circle? How can one be focusing on affecting the outer circle from a space of complete instability? I think
absolutely
that's
right. Yeah,
yeah.
absolutely. Yeah, I agree with that very much, because if you think about it, if your inner circle is not working in a way, right? If there's a lot of trouble in your inner circle, you're
Inner
not
circle
good.
meaning family?
Yeah, well, it depends on how you want to define it.
Within your own self first, and then
Yes.
from there, right?
Yeah, there may be dependents, right? You may have dependents like kids or
Parents.
older parents or other people, let's say your wife, or if you're a wife and your husband is disabled or whatever it is, they may have people who are dependent on you. And if you are not strong, if you're not strong within your circle, your innermost circle, you're definitely not going to be able to expand and put energy into any other circle. That's what my thinking was, and I agree with Shiv on that.
Okay, I would like Jiten to say a few things now.
Yes, Jiten, is
Yeah.
he still? Oh, there you are. Any comments on this dharma thing?
Or any other thing too, related to chapter 2.
No,
I
I
think
just want a little bit to say that dharma is slightly confusing. Definitely, it's not religion or anything, as normally the Westerners think it. But I will say it's more or less a code of conduct and normative. in the sense that the society sets up certain good moral, ethical norms under which we operate. And again, this can be subjective because the other communities or other groups may not subscribe to them. What you are saying are normative. So that's why sometimes the dharma is a kind of very, you can say, godly defined kind of activity that we should, like truthfulness, for example, is universal wherever you apply it. It does not change. Morals does not change. Doing violence or non-violence principle is universal. So to me, dharma is more a universal rather than a societal normative, because that brings conflict. Like, for example, a Muslim may say that this is my dharma, whereas a Hindu may say this is not my dharma, whereas we are living in the same community. So where we agree, I mean, I think I see the most problems today are based upon this, because we think that my community has given me a right to perform this, and this is a stamp on this by the community, and I can do it. Is it a dharma then? If it comes in conflict with the other community with the same principle. And I think that needs a larger, a bigger question, that how we resolve this. Does it according to our own likes and dislikes, our preferences and prejudices, and so on? So I think to me, when I consider that, I look at the universal principles, universality of something, and then that becomes my benchmark, that how I act. Yes, in the communities, you can have your own benchmark, that's fine. But in a larger global community, that we have to, like nations have to act according to dharma. And Krishna is not talking about an individual alone, but he's talking about the whole universe. And even universe has a dharma of revolution, rotation, and dissolution, and so on. That is the dharma of the universe. We should look at that dharma in a very broader perspective, and then you will see that how we within the dharma redefine it and how we fit into this. That's my question to ponder over.
I think that like what's happening with our communities and with like morality and the idea of morality in general is it seems to be getting more complex as the whole world, which has, you know, mutually exclusive morals in some cases between communities coming together, right?
Yeah.
And then you have basically, right, like you have the internet now, where you can be living in one community, but really, who is your community? It's who you spend your most of your time with. So you can be living within a community, and your real community, who you spend the most time with, could be halfway across the world, not even the people who are living around you, right?
Yes.
So it's getting more complex, so it seems.
Yeah, because of the ease of sharing information.
And then that sort of makes the idea even of what is moral more complex as well.
Jitain, you haven't spoken in a while.
Yeah, no, I don't want to say. I think it's a very good discussion. You know, my understanding is in terms of, you know, Gyan Yoga, Karam Yoga and Bhakti Yoga, you know, so lot of the concepts are different there, you know, so this is not the forum to discuss those, you know, so I will just pass.
One of the things that comes up, and especially when you look at history, which is definitely something that I'm very interested in, is you can't necessarily have a universal concept of what is just if the other community that you're interacting with has a completely different perspective, okay? And that's which can create a lot of conflict and can make your own community a victim in some ways, right?
Like what?
Well, if you look at the history of Hinduism under the influence of Islam or under the influence of the British, there were certain things we needed to learn from that experience. Yeah, there were certain things we needed to understand, and our people who were warriors were not aware of certain rules that the other communities followed, and that it was important to be aware of that if you want to succeed in that sort of situation. And if you want to protect your own community, you want the welfare of your own community, if you ignore certain things, you pay the price. And that's what our history shows us.
Yeah. Like, for example, in Jallianwala Bagh, those guys, they took the instruction from one guy and killed the entire crowd.
Yes, yes.
And if they had to follow,
Precisely.
if they knew Gita, do
Yeah.
you think they would have
They would have
listened
done
to
it.
that guy?
No,
mean,
it's not a question of whether they knew Gita so much, but they were trained like robots to do certain things, right? They were trained by the British to follow their command, okay, which works very good as far as the army is concerned. And that's why the Indian army was very good for the British, but they were trained that way, and the British were very smart that they brought Gurkhas in to shoot on the Punjabis. And so the Gurkhas had no particular
Interest.
They did not have family connections or anything to get in the way of it, and so they
even just thinking in terms of the Gita, like, was it the wrong decision for Drona to be fighting along the side of the king against Krishna? Maybe not. Maybe this is just what he believed he needed to do given his dharma.
Yeah,
I mean, I guess
someone needs to comment on that. Someone who's more familiar with that element of how those different people got aligned different ways. How is it that Drona and Bhishma and so many of the other stalwarts were fighting for
Kaurava.
the Kauravas? How did that happen?
Yes.
Can I speak?
Dronacharya was attracted by, his son. He had tremendous attraction for his son. So all his decisions were pertaining to the son. This is something Gita says, don't do that. Don't be attached to that. You got to look at the society.
Yeah,
So,
please, Ravi, please, whenever Jiten is done, please feel free to speak. Sorry, please go on,
okay.
Jiten.
okay. So main thing is to see the society,
How
Lord
did
Krishna-
that influence him, Jiten? How did his love for his own son influence him to fight for the Kauravas?
because he was not giving anything to the Pandavas, even 5 villages were not being given to them, so they had done all the things that they wanted, they have gone to the forest and all of that, and they were hidden and they did all kinds of things, to satisfy him.
But the question is, why did Drona take the side of the Kauravas?
Because of his son,
How does his son enter into the picture?
Duryodhan, because he wanted to become the king.
Duryodhan was not the son of Drona. He was not Drona's son.
No,
Yes.
I think here we are speaking of the Dronacharya, their guru, Kauravas.
Yes,
and-
that's
No,
what I'm talking about.
No, Drona, what
Yeah.
was his name?
Yeah, that Drona's son's name was Ashwathama.
Ashwathama. Oh, okay.
Yeah, that's
Yeah,
very
I think
confusing.
Jit-
My
I think Jitenji was
understanding
talking
was, sorry.
Duryodhana and Dhritarashtra and Duryodhana, I think he was talking.
Yes.
Dhritarashtra, the
Yes.
Dhritarashtra. I thought you were mentioning Dhritarashtra.
No,
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 Dhritarashtra didn't even participate in the war because
Okay,
he was
I
blind,
think
right?
I would like to give Ravi Kumari
Yes,
time to
yes,
talk.
please,
Yeah.
yes, please.
Ravi?
Can you all hear me?
Yes.
Yes.
We can't see you.
Yeah.
We want to see you.
That's
So
okay.
That's okay. That's okay.
the bigger
That's okay. Give you a
issue
hard time.
is they were all loyal to the king and kingdom. They all knew that they are fighting on the side of adharma, but we all in our cultures there is a saying: if you eat someone's food, if you have salt relation, that is what they say. So they all ate Duryodhana's kingdom's food. They were all loyal to him for that reason. Even when Duryodhana was doing very bad things, all these older people, they said to him that to not do those things. When Draupadi's Chirharan was happening, when Pandavas were like they were sent to Aranyavas and all those things, they all knew that it is against Dharma. But Duryodhana was haughty, like he what do you say, like he was arrogant, and he wanted to do his own thing. And Dhritarashtra knew that Duryodhana was doing it wrong, but he won't completely stop him because of his love to
His
Duryodhana,
son. Yes.
his son. So it is a lot of interrelated things, not just one aspect of it, that whole thing. And then that was Dwapar Yuga, where they said that adharma was 50% and dharma was 50%, something like that. And Kali Yuga, the dharma went down even more. So that is one big reason they all fought in that war against Krishna, even though they knew that they are fighting against dharma, and they all knew that they will die. Bhishma knew, Dronacharya knew, and Dronacharya knew the capacity of Arjun, and they all knew that Krishna was supporting Arjun, and once you have Krishna on the other side, there is no way that they are going to win this war, regardless of the size and capacity of the militaries that they all got. But
That's
Duryodhana
very
thought
well
otherwise. But
Yeah.
Duryodhana thought otherwise, because when you get angry and arrogant like that, the things don't make sense to you. I mean, if you go back to Ramayana, that is the case also. If you think about Ravana was a Brahman. He is the grandson of Brahma, and he is a very learned person. He lived thousands of years, and he married so many women. He literally got everything he wanted, but still he wanted Sita, that one person, and he destroyed himself in the process. And if you look at the cause and effect relationship, that basically was a setup by gods themselves to actually destroy him, because he won't listen to anyone. He was destroyed. In all these things, if you look at it, it's the karma, what the actions that people do, they have consequences. And the other thing that I get from Bhagavad Gita and Mahabharata is this: even God, when he takes a birth, he has to go through this karmic cycle. If he does something wrong or adharma, he has to pay for it. And Ram kills Wali in Ramayana from sitting in a shadow behind a tree. And for that reason, he gave boon to Wali that in my next avatar, you will get to take this out on me. And Krishna dies so badly in the Mausala Parva of Mahabharata. If you look at it, the god that ran the whole war, he literally died like without anyone. All his sons and grandsons died because of Gandhari's shap, and then he died like an orphan. Some unknown person. They say that it is Wali in the previous gen. That person actually kills Krishna with an arrow, and then he just died without anyone there. And then there are a lot of other things. I think in all through this, it's the karma that is more important. And what it teaches us is to be cognizant of that fact, of our actions, what we are doing, because it's not going away. Like whatever little thing, it is being counted. Somewhere, someone is counting that. In our mythologies, they say it is Chitragupt. But we have to be watchful of these actions, because even if God could not escape that, so who are we? That's what I take out of these things.
Yes. Yes.
Tavi, would you like to say something? You came a teeny bit late, but
Not right now, but thank you.
okay. Is Jyoti there?
I'm not sure. I just signed on, so I don't know if she has yet.
Okay, okay. All right. We are almost time to leave now very soon. But anybody, it was 11:30 to 12:30, right?
You're an hour ahead.
Oh, I see. That's why you guys made a mistake.
No. I thought it was 11:30 our time.
We'll have a recording posted and so you can look
Facebook.
at what you missed, but next time you can come on time if you like.
So
Oh
also
my
Ravi.
goodness, I'm so disappointed. I was looking forward to it.
Aw.
So you will have a recording we can
Yes,
listen to?
yes.
Yeah,
We'll
and it's
post it up.
usually-
Yeah.
And we do it once a month, but you will get the message a day before the program. You will get the email. That's okay. That's okay, Tavi.
Next time.
Yeah, I lived in India for 2 years, and then I studied with Swami Dayananda
Oh, wow.
at Arsha Vidya Gurukulam for a year doing the Gita and classes. So I was really looking forward to it. Oh, I'll see you next
Oh,
month.
great.
Well, we would look
Glad
forward
to
to
have you.
listening to your comments.
Where did you learn that? You know, at Arts Vidya, which campus?
Saylorsburg.
Oh, okay.
And
Yeah.
Swami Tadatmananda taught quite a few classes. Swami
Right.
Dayananda came for visits, but I understand Swami Tadatmananda started his own ashram or gurukulam in New Jersey.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, he's in New Jersey now.
Okay.
Uh,
Yeah, we missed you. I was thinking Jyoti will come too. Jyoti was very keen to come.
yeah, we both probably didn't realize the time difference.
Oh, Ravi also. Ravi must have missed because Ravi is from Texas. So
Yeah.
Yeah.
anyway,
you so much.
Vaishali, would you end the this thing our talk with the last
The
that
shloka, you mean?
sloka.
Yeah.
We will not repeat after you. You just say.
Okay. Okay.
One sec, hold on. Oh my gosh.
Well, I need to stop sharing, right?
No,
Here we
except
are. Can you see this?
no.
No.
Praveen, you stop. You get okay. Now expand that.
Oh,
No, this is Pravin's screen
wait,
share.
can you stop?
Yeah.
I'll share now.
I stopped sharing.
Okay. Can you see this?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay.
Om Sarve Bhavantu Sukhinah Sarve Santu Niramayah Sarve Bhadrani Pashyantu Ma Kaschit Dukkha Bhag Bhaved. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti.
Thank you, everybody, for coming.
Thank you.
And we'll see you next month. When are we having the next meeting, Jiten?
No, it's the end of January, remember?
Yeah, end of January and chapter 3.
Okay, chapter 3. Finally, we get off chapter 2, huh?
Yeah.
That's the most important chapter according
Yes.
to people, you know.
See, Jiten is pacing us because he and some other people here, they have such good knowledge of the Gita. So
No, I don't have much good knowledge.
No, you do.
you do better than Surinder too. Surinder's comments were
Surinder
very
has
good.
been very. Surinder, where are you from?